Good evening. Hi, everybody. It's 4 p.m. and we are here together with Aditi, whose introduction I will give in a while. But I'm just excited to see that we could bring this powerful session for our community members and for all the women who's asking, how can I power up my negotiation skills for the next promotion or to get that salary raise that I deserve? First of all, my name is Sheetal Gurung from Women on Wealth. And Women on Wealth is a women centric community where we help women take charge of their finances. And today with us, we have an expert in this field. Her name is Aditi Sheoran, who is a behavioral change facilitator and transformation coach. She is especially passionate about women career advancement and helping people bring about mind shifts so they can actualize their true potential towards growth, happiness, and purpose. I think we align, what Aditi does and what we do at Women on Wealth, the mind shift that we want to bring, the growth and happiness towards wealth creation that we want to bring. Is so much in tune, and we're just so excited to bring her here today amidst all of us. A little more about Aditi. She delivers programs enabling corporates as well on talent effectiveness, leadership development, culture building, and diversity and inclusion. Um, and when I first interacted with Aditi, and then she said that, hey, we could do this amazing session live conversation with the Women on Wealth community members and women out there. Of course, when she said negotiation, I quickly went on to think that, okay, if I'm really able to skill up and negotiate and let's say bring about a 10% hike in my salary in a certain year, then how much wealth will that help me create was a question I had. So I went and did a quick calculation online. I looked at, okay, if I invest 10,000 per month for 10 years at 10% rate of interest, then that money grows to about 20 lakhs and 72,000, where the 2 lakhs and okay. So the interest grows to this much, where the principal is, sorry, so I will say that again because it's exciting. I think all the numbers are getting me jumbled up. So I said that 10,000, if I'm able to save 10,000, invest 10,000 for 10 years at 10% rate of interest, then that grows to 20 lakh 72,000 approximately, where the principal you invest is 12 lakhs, okay, and then the interest earned is 8 lakh 72,000. But if I enable myself into being able to negotiate for that, even the 10% hike, then just by investing 10% more, my overall corpus could go from 20 lakhs to 22 lakhs. And mind you, this is not keeping in mind how much more I'm able to invest per year. This is just a simple basic calculation. And also this I should be able to do it with the same amount of time and effort put into this role. And I think this to me makes a whole lot of difference then in how I am able to even see the longer perspective of things, and be able to see how it's not about just that winning in terms of the next promotion or that 10% hike this year, but overall contribution in wealth creation. So I'm also excited for all of us to be able to get some tips and really what goes behind in becoming more powerful in negotiation. And for that, I'm now going to bring our expert, Aditi. Please go ahead and help us learn this skill. I think it's an essential skill, and I would say it's a life skill. So thank you for being with us here, and over to you, Aditi.
Thanks, Sheetal. Thanks a lot. Firstly, I want to thank all the people who made the time to come here today. And thanks for the wonderful introduction and what you said about investment versus negotiation. I think it's pretty valuable. It's not just a life skill, I think it's a leadership skill as well. And we talk about that in the session
Mhm.
today. So negotiation has been very close to my heart because I've been the kind I've worked in the corporate for almost 13 years now, And when I started out in my career, I was the kind who was a war horse, who only knew how to work.
Mm-hmm.
It was either work or play. There was no play at work in me. Okay, so that entire life skill of being able to even talk about your competence with confidence, that's exactly what is it has been a journey for me, especially being an independent consultant. In the past few years, I've been working independently with clients and various firms, and in that there are a lot more discussions where I have had opportunities to do negotiations. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it's like trying to crack a new deal, or whether it's like getting a bit more flexibility at your work, and going up to asking for that raise that you deserve, as per the parity, or looking for a new job, looking at the entire bunch of benefits. So we have a whole lot of places where we find opportunities to negotiate. But in this session today, our main aim, my whole intention that I've come here with, is that everybody goes back thinking about what is stopping them and how to overcome it. You know, and with that, I'll get started. What we will do is I have a presentation that I'll run, you all through, and towards the end, Sheetal, we could have questions that have poured into you, and
Yes.
yeah, so I would take about 20 to 30 minutes at max with the presentation. It should be wrapping up within that. If you have any questions, any thoughts coming into your mind, please type it into the chat window so that Sheetal can kind of bring it to my notice, and we can address it towards the end. And please, participate from that aspect, introspect. A lot of the session is about going through the journey of why we hesitate and how to overcome it. What are the tips and tricks that we need to keep in mind? Okay, so
Yes.
without
Thanks
further,
so much.
yeah, thanks, Sheetal. So I'll just get started. I will share my screen.
Got
And
it. I'm gonna give this space to you, and I'm excited to tell you that we have 15 viewers watching you live and taking this learning from you. And already there are some questions coming, and I definitely have some questions which our community members had shared with me. So I'm gonna bring them all to you, and over to you. Thank you.
that's great. That's great. Thanks. So I'm going to share the screen, and the moment that happens and you're able to see the presentation, please give me a thumbs up in the chat window. Just a second. I hope the gods of technology are with us today. Can you see my screen?
Yes, the screen is up.
Great, great, great. Perfect. Right? Should we proceed? We'll get started.
Just a second, Aditi. I'm gonna check again because I was not able to view the presentation.
Just check. So I've put it up on the screen. Just check.
It's good now. It's working.
Perfect. So we'll get started. Please keep a pen and a paper with you, because there may be some things from here that you would want to jot down. And this is IP, so I would request it not to be reproduced in any manner. And with that, we'll get started. Okay. Make sure there are no distractions for the rest of the presentation, because we have a packed 45 minutes, out of which 5 are done. Okay. Great. So you are in the right place if you want to overcome negotiation barriers that you may be facing as a woman. You want to understand how not negotiating is impacting your financial growth. And Sheetal spoke about it. I speak about a couple of more impacts which go beyond even the financial part. Uncover strategies to overcome any fears you have around negotiation. Okay? And be able to back your competence and your potential with confident expression, because at the end of the day, it is about being true to yourself, and being a go-getter, so you get what you deserve. And finally, lead negotiations with positive emotions and collaboration. Whenever we think of negotiation, the thought that comes to our mind is that it's going to be a tussle. This is a difficult conversation that we're going to enter into. And if we enter into with the negotiation with that intention, be rest assured that there would be difficulty because of our hesitation, the mindset that we have come in with. So very important part is to really set an intention in terms of how we plan to approach the negotiation. Now what you see on the screen is this amazing word, which makes our world go round, or maybe topsy turvy. It is expectations. A lot of times what happens is, we enter a negotiation with expectations and the burden of those on our head, in terms of what will other people think of me if I put in my demands out here. And the second part is, obviously how will they perceive me is the first. The second is, how will I be able to meet their expectations of me when I try to act tough. Because people typically expect women, and there is an entire background to this. There's something called agency characteristics, agentic traits, and there's something called communal traits. The difference between the two is that the agentic traits, which typically include decision making, dynamism, sales skills, or being a go-getter, are associated with men as per social conditioning. And that is typically because of the gender roles that were applicable maybe a century back. you know and the communal traits are typically called the ones which are nurturing, where care is part of the trait. Togetherness, sensitivity, emotions, all of this come under communal traits, and they are typically attributed to women. And that is because of the caregiving roles that we have taken as a majority in the past. But now with things changing, unfortunately the stereotypes and the social conditioning doesn't change that soon, unless it is brought to our awareness and it is really tackled with policies, with actions on ground, with women coming out there and leaning in further. Okay, so this entire thing about expectations, both the things that I talked about, are related to our conditioning. But what we really need to go into a negotiation with is actually, what do we expect of ourselves? What do we expect of, what does Aditi expect of herself when she's entering this discussion with the other party? What am I expecting? Am I expecting to get a win-win outcome, or am I expecting a very unsatisfactory discussion, or a very difficult conversation? So, and a couple of years down the line, do I want to be somebody whose words are valued, whose requests are valued, who is valued, and whose whatever the requests are put forward are at least considered? So all of that, expectations play a big role. So please check, make a note of it whenever you're doing conversations which are a little tough. Think about, what is your expectation of yourself, rather than what does the other party expect of me, and how will I look to them. Now there are three primary reasons why people hold back. And at this point, I would like each of you to think of what's holding you back. Just jot it down in your notepad, and let's see if you fit into one of the three that I put forth here. Now, the first one, because of the community traits that women associate themselves with subconsciously because of the conditioning, this is one thing that comes to your mind. I don't want to upset my hiring panel, or my boss, or the other party, whoever I'm negotiating with. And that is typically because we want to be seen as goody goody. We want to be seen as accepting, as concerned about the other party, and so on. And how much of that do we do, really not sure. But basically that is one of the flags that we hold in front of us, or placards that we hold in front of us, to buckle down from negotiation, to back up from negotiation. Now, I want to talk a little more about the first one. The thing is, when you enter a salary discussion, or when you are at an appraisal discussion, or you are at a job discussion, it is understood by the other party. 80% of the recruiters actually expect you not to take the first offer, and that's actually one of the negotiation tactics as well. Never accept the first offer, okay? Because the recruiter expects you to showcase your sales skills in the one discussion that will decide your starting pay, your base salary, on which all your appraisals in the future would be done. So if you accept what's given to you, that also speaks a bit about, you not giving a fight, right? And it is said that the recruiters value a candidate more if he or she comes up and negotiates. And interestingly, it is all about how it's done. So negotiation by itself is not bad, but it's about the way we do it, right? So that's what we need to brush up on. The second thing is that what I was talking about, the war horse. I want my work to speak for itself. Now, that's putting a lot of pressure on you. And I think all of us by now know that it's a mix of the two, work and an expression of the work, in terms of communication about it, letting the key people know, without overdoing it, but it is very important. And you may not talk about your work ever, but when it comes to a salary discussion, or when it comes to a negotiation, or any important discussion which matters to you, I think this is the one thing that you are actually basing your discussion on. So it's very important to let your work be great, but also back it up with great skills of negotiation. So in the first one, what we are looking at is harmony, right? And in the second one, what we are trying to say is that let my competency speak. So what we really need to do is negotiate also in a competent manner. And for the first one, I would say we need to approach the negotiation harmoniously. But there is nothing that will, keep us away from negotiation too long if we really want to succeed. And finally, a lot of people say, in a high-handed manner, or they even pride themselves with this, that I'm not so money-minded, or I've got what I've wanted in the past, and I don't like to hustle. It's too, you know, uh, too lowly for me to do. And on the other hand, there are the ones who will say that I just don't have the confidence to do it. So it makes me highly uncomfortable. But it is the need of the hour for you to do. You need to get out of your comfort zone, because there is a lot at stake if you don't. And let's see what that is. Now, before I move into what you lose, what's the impact? Let me talk about something which is actually really sad, and again got to do with the conditioning. Uh, Already there is a gender pay gap, and the social penalty and the gender pay gap kind of feed each other. They are best friends. Okay. So the social penalty that women actually pay, and this is a research done by Duke's University about 2 years back, wherein women are often considered pushy and less likable. And 30%, the women who negotiate, they were 30% more likely than men who negotiate to receive a negative feedback in terms of being intimidating, too aggressive, or bossy. And this has also got to do a bit with us, because we have not been in too many negotiation situations. We try to keep ourselves away from them. What ends up happening is, when we do enter that, we enter it with a lot of tension, a lot of fear, and then the aggression automatically shows. So it's all about practice as well. But then obviously it's almost like, nobody can handle our fabulousness, whether we speak or we don't. If we don't, we lose. If we speak, we lose. So let's see what that ends up where that ends us. Okay, so the first one thing that could happen is that you end up into this angry leader, or because you've emulated all the agentic traits, which some of them might be your natural traits. And frankly, I relate myself as much to the feminine traits as to some of the masculine traits as well. And a lot of us do, but we keep them. We don't associate with them during these discussions, and we don't let them play out positively. So what happens is, we emulate certain traits which are totally not our cup of tea, and we try to be, brush up, like literally push our way through negotiations by being extremely dominating and angry. Okay. And because that's not a comfortable trait to showcase, so when we do it in this manner, and in the end, what could that lead to? It could lead to bad leadership, not very effective leadership. The second one is, now this I found really bold and funny. This is the war horse, so you keeping your stereotypes, and you using the burden of stereotypes to hide from negotiation, literally. What will that lead you to is a burnout. It will lead you to a burnout. It will also lead you to a lot of pressure on yourself to perform, because you're not balancing it with the competence of skill, of negotiation. You're only doing the competency of task and work. So that's a very unhealthy way to move about in the corporate space, or any space, I would say. It's very important to, perforate your blinders, I would say, and I'll move ahead. And also another impact that could be to all of this is dropout. So burnout was one, and dropout is the other. Lot of people just give up because they've never been able to, brace themselves up for negotiation, and in the end they lose interest. Now let's see the impact. Pay disparity. So currently we are doing fine. In fact, better than the 80s, when for every cent that a man earned, we earned about 67 cents, 0.67 cents. Okay, so 67%. And now it has come to, in the earning population, it has come to 81 cents. 80.81 cents for every cent that a man earns. Sorry, I got the decimals wrong. But basically, there's a huge amount of disparity still. And it will take something like 200 plus years for us to be paid at par with men with the same credentials and experience as us. So there is a lot of work that we need to do here. And by hesitating to negotiate, we are not just not fighting for ourselves, we are not fighting for womankind, So there is a larger purpose here as well. And the second, I told you, burnout. Now, if you keep putting the burden of your success on your competence itself and don't back it up with other leadership skills, it's not going to work. Resentment towards lost opportunities, and anger towards being taken for granted, which will automatically happen if you're not speaking up for yourself. And what will that lead you to is either a lowered self-image or a lack of interest in self-growth, saying that this is not my cup of tea, and eventually a dropout. Okay, so do any of these ring a bell with you? Have you ever been in situations where you have, faced a disparity in your job, where when you have faced extreme stress and almost a burnout sort of a situation because of the way you work, or resentment and anger towards a promotion going to somebody else while you were equally deserving, but you never spoke up? Or have you ever felt a lowered self image because of not entering into these tough discussions? And I hope the last two never happen to you. Okay, let that be an option or a choice, a conscious choice that you make, not coming out of years of not playing the game. Now, let's talk bit more about the gender wage gap. I already spoke about the statistics. Interestingly, the one job, I think at least in the US, this was a study done by the Catalyst, and the one job where there is hardly any disparity is construction workers, where women earn, I think, 0.99 cents for every cent that a man made. So is that what we all need to get down to doing now? Or can we also look at that kind of gender wage parity in other professions? And interestingly, the professions where there's maximum gap is finance and insurance. Isn't that interesting? So it's also a game of power in a way. Now, it's very nice to be altruistic and say that, money can't buy happiness, so why should I go after it? There are so many other things that define me. And frankly, all of us should think like that, because frankly, yes, money is not the most important thing, but it is important. You can buy a penguin with the money that you earn, or you can do a lot of good for your community as well. You can lead the life that you want. You can give the life that you want to your children. You can be of support to a lot of causes which you would otherwise not have even thought of, right? So it kind of increases your bandwidth in a way, or increases your impact towards yourself, in your society, and for the entire community. So it's a big one. I mean, when you back out of negotiations or tough discussions, I think you're doing a disservice not just to yourself but your entire environment. And God forbid, I mean, your daughters are watching. So I also have a daughter, and I feel about this so much, that everything I do has an impact on how she perceives or how she learns the role of women in the society. So I need to buckle up, you know. So that's what's in my mind a lot of times whenever I'm in these situations. Let's move forward. And yeah, one more interesting fact is that women, I mean, the earning women, the working women versus the working men, for the same job, the women, their median salary, the global average as per Catalyst, in rupee terms, it is around 8.5 lakhs per annum. Okay, that's the average globally. Okay, for all the working women. And for the men, it is double of that, 16 lakhs. So you see the difference. It's going to take a lot of effort from each one of us to move forward, right? Now let's look at, and these gaps actually increase. The tougher discussions actually happen at the time when it's most difficult for us to push through. It could be when you've got married, when you have caregiving responsibilities at home. And there are studies to prove that women of color, women of older ages, women who are married, and if you have kids, then you're completely in the red alert zone of either a situation where you end up dropping out or relegate yourself in some manner or the other. So let's rise up and let's not do that. Now let's look at the gains in asking. Now this is an interesting image from the G7 summit in 2000, I think 18, 2 years back, when the America First policy of Trump was completely something that put off all the other important nations of the world. And you see the way the German Chancellor Merkel is standing. Now she can do that. She holds that space in the room where the Japanese president is overlooking her. There is Macron on the side. There is Theresa May on the side, hidden. So this is something that women possibly would not have thought of being maybe 50 or 100 years back. But so we have come a long way, and that is because of the fact that these women have entered into those tough zones, whereas others have conformed to stereotype. Now let's look at it. The first is obviously you get results, because you will be surprised at the number of times you get what you want by asking, and you just have to ask in the right manner. So raises and promotions. Second, you boost your brand value. So like I said, the recruiters and the other party actually values you more when you're able to fight for yourself. Improved self-image and confidence, the exact opposite of the impact that negative impact we were speaking about. Yeah, and it's totally linked with sales and leadership skills. Now, if you're actually if you're actually going to an interview for a sales role, and in fact, every role has an angle of sales, an element of sales in it, you have to be a good negotiator. Financial and professional growth. Now, let me move in, and I realize that 30 minutes are up, and I just have about 10 odd minutes more at max. And we can always extend. I'm fine with that till if all of you are. So get over it. How to get over it? So there is a long list of things. You can possibly just jot these down. I'll talk a bit about each of them. The first is when you're entering into a negotiation. What is your mindset? And in the negotiation program that I do, the larger program that I do for women leaders, we get into this. We do it in a workshop mode where we actually make people go back to those situations and try to make them remember what are they saying to themselves before entering a negotiation. You need to know that line that you say to yourself and how disempowering that could be. Rather, you could say something which brings you in a more resourceful state. A resourceful state will help you get a better outcome. Okay, this is my NLP hat on me right now, but it really works. The second is reframe the negotiation beliefs. The state that you're in, the statements you're saying to yourself are because of certain deep seated beliefs. So you need to go back to which out of those three, um, you know, the first slide that I was speaking about, which of those three things are actually holding you back? Or is there something else apart from it? I would really be interested to hear if there's anything apart from that, possibly towards the end. So it's very important to reframe your beliefs, and that's a work that you do over a period of time. Then, Sheetal was saying in the beginning, it's very important to network for success, and both are linked. Leveraging mentors and sponsors, both these are linked in some manner. And this is not about being calculative or materialistic. None of us want to associate ourselves with those words, but it is about really being connected with your work. Really being, if you're really passionate about your work, you will be, because you cannot move forward alone. You have to move forward in partnership, and today is a great example of that. Women supporting other women, and we are all in this together. So if we have something good to give, something good to create, why not patch up? So it's very important. And since there are very few women leaders that we can actually look up and emulate, the ones that are there, at least let us madly follow them, and try to emulate what they are doing, try to understand how they've got there. So this is another topic that I speak a lot about and we work upon it during the women leadership programs that I do. And finally, you need to know your USP, and we'll talk about it in the coming slides. And yes, practice baby steps. Celebrate small wins. So you may not initially start just talking about money and salary and raises and so on. You may initially start off with negotiating a vacation, for example, or negotiating a better laptop. It could be something that is reasonable and which is within your range. Start asking. You know what basically is behind our hesitation is really hearing a no or being disappointed. So, what you need to really practice is being disappointed, being okay with being disappointed, and yet asking for what's reasonable, sticking your ground, being positive. So, all of those things, they come with practice. You could also start negotiating with your family members. It could be, because that's a great safe ground for you to try building that skill, building that muscle of facing a no and or facing a yes. It really depends. So you really need to get there. Now these are two very interesting stats, and how negotiation is really leads up to leadership. Now there are this is a study done by BAV Consulting, John Gerzema. Okay, and it was posted in HPR, and there are about 10 competencies which are considered leadership competencies, out of which two are considered agentic and 8 are considered communal. Okay, not the usual meaning of communal, but community. So interestingly, all of them link with negotiation. So what we women need to do, or some of the men who are emulating more of the feminine qualities, we just need to be more decisive and be more resilient, be okay with hearing a no. How will you be more decisive? If you have analysis in your mind, if you're able to strategize and plan, if you're able to get into facts and figures, all of that, right? And second interesting one is that, again, strategic planning and analysis is what we figure at par with men there too. Surprisingly, this will come as a surprise to a lot of us, but this is a study again done and posted in Business Week. Right now, let's move forward. What are the tips? And this is the main slide post which we can there are a few more slides there, but yeah, we can wrap up post that. So, Sheetal, I'll take about 5-10 minutes more if that's fine with you. Just drop me a
Yes.
message. Yeah, thanks, thanks.
So,
So, yeah. So, first and foremost, the golden rule is that you should always be ready to negotiate because, like I said, your boss, your team, your whatever the other party is, the recruiter expects you to, and by negotiating well, you will only increase your value in that relationship with them, right? The second is let the other party make the first offer. Unfortunately, a lot of times that's not possible because the other party is extremely pushy in asking you, what are your expectations? So there are ways to dodge that question, but you really can't dodge that for too long. Or really can't hide what your last salary was. Or you really can't, after a point, you may come to a point where you have to spell out your expectation, but try to delay that as much you can in the discussion, and do it only when prompted. Never say it out on your own. Okay. And these are tips, and we get into details when we do the larger program of why and how. For now, you can jot these down. um, Now, know your market value. Like I was saying, you need to know your market value, and market value is a function of a lot of things. It's a function of how the company is doing, how your industry is doing, the company that you are working in or applying for, the industry, how people in your role, what's the parity for that in the company, what's the company pay scale stats, if you have an insider in that company, a friend, you can obviously get into a much deeper discussion and get to a clear number here. And finally, what is your credential? What is your experience? Let your last salary not be the showstopper for you, right? Um, you need to get into those finer details of really summing up, and also in the role that you're getting into in the company, or getting promoted to, or getting hired for. You need to realize what is the impact you can make there. That gives you great leverage in upping your market value. So there is an entire exercise we do on this to really come out with what your market value is in a larger program. Okay. So that is that. And the market value also has a lot to do with you as much as it is to do with the other party, right? Now, stretch. You get to your market value, you know your worth, you know the company's, how much, how deep the company's pockets are. And at the end, you still got to stretch because whatever you say first, expect the other party also not to take it lying down, just like you would not. So they will politely try to negotiate you down, and you have to totally be comfortable with that. So for that, you leave that buffer, but let it not be too off, just a little above the value that you have. So maybe a 5 to 10% above that. And you know what? To know your market value, frankly, there are some very, so you can go to Glassdoor, you can go to Indeed, you can go to a lot of places to kind of figure out the pay scales. And there is a patented calculator there where you can calculate your market value. I'm not sure if that's for every role, but it could benefit a few of us. Now, practice asking. You have to practice this. You may have everything down on paper, but you've got to practice it, right? And you got to practice literally like a situation reaction test. What are the questions, or what are the questions that could kind of tip me off completely? Or what are the things that they could ask me about reasoning out the offer, and so on and so forth, right? So it's very important to practice asking. And like I said in the previous one, it is something that you need to do in your daily life. Ask for reasonable things, ask for help. Start asking for help. I was one who was very possibly it was the ego or what, I don't know, but basically it was very uncomfortable to ask for help. And when you start developing that muscle of realizing that you frankly need help at every different stage, or every different phase in your career and your life, then suddenly your entire world expands. the world of opportunity to the world of support. And that powers you to move forward because you know there is somebody or the other at a different stage or in the future that will hold your hand. Which also brings me to the point in the previous slide, that look for networks, look for sponsors, then prioritize your requests. And they typically say, if you're negotiating a salary, don't just look at it as a number, look at the entire rewards and benefits package. Okay, so it's not just about, it's also about your flexibility, it's also about how what are the work what is the work mechanism there, if you can get a day working from home, or what kind of travel does it include, what are the perks and privileges that you get, you know. So a lot of things to negotiate there. Maybe you want to negotiate for a team. If you are hired in the role which is highly demanding, you may want to negotiate for a subordinate or a team member. So these are all part of the asks there. And don't say yes too soon. I already covered that. That don't accept the first offer. And if something uncomfortable happens in the negotiation discussion, calmly and confidently you buy time. Ask for more time to decide. You can always do that. And the more, and there is actually a study which says the more time you take to decide, it gives you a better chance of negotiating higher in the next discussion that you have. And yes, don't push too hard. Now what happens is, because we are, if we have not been in negotiation discussions too much, then when we do ask, we end up asking too hard, and that could even help make, you know, the firm resign the offer. So you don't want to get into that situation. And finally, for a salary raise in a, while you're working in a company, an appraisal, the timing really matters. So maybe a year ending where some people, or when some members of your team have quit, you know, these are good timings. Or when some big deal is being cracked, or when you have recently done something great. So you can actually, I'm not saying this is trickery of any sort, but basically you can use these moments as comfortable moments to have a more congenial discussion with your um, manager, right? So that is that. Now I'm coming to the end of the session. um, I've been saying last 5 minutes, and you know, going forward, but I'm really enjoying being here, and I hope all of you are too. So what we're looking at is using positive emotions and collaboration. Now let's talk a bit about it, and we go deeper into this in the session that we've planned in the future, and Sheetal will be talking about that. So we typically look at, you know, sometimes people look at nego as a game of poker. You know, you hold your cards close to your chest. Don't showcase any happiness on your face. Don't showcase anything that makes the other party take you for a ride. So be stern, be stoic, and all of that. But you know what we are doing by thinking like this, and this goes back to how you're framing the negotiation. What are your beliefs about the negotiation? This actually puts off the other party into a defense mode. And if we ask, if we completely, you know, take out positive emotions out of a negotiation, it'll end up being a very clinical conversation. So when there is an exchange of emotions in a 3:1 ratio of positive to negative, it is considered a good positivity ratio, as per studies, and you know, there've been books written about it. So expect that in the negotiation there will be disruption. There will be maybe a high crescendo of uh, uncomfortable discussion for you if you haven't done so before. And this is not a conflict situation. That there it goes even higher. So here, be rest assured and try to keep it 3:1. That is the aim. That's the expectation. And emotions are such an important, you know, part of a human, right? A human being. The emotion is the first thing that comes to my mind. The word human is synonymous with emotion. And if we let that out, we are really letting out a lot of intelligence out of our system. So never do that. So so you need to leverage positive emotions, and that's in terms of your thoughts, expressions, your language, your tone, and the words. And we do a lot of practice situations where we actually, you know, have some templated things that can be said. uh, to really help you go forward positively in the negotiation. And yeah, I was saying multiple options, and it's good to present two options to your recruiting party. And it's good to do that rather than put them in a corner by just presenting one. People always like it if they're given room for maneuver, right? So that is that. And finally, firm and friendly approach. So give it time, give it patience, and approach that entire discussion with respect. Now there are some 10 positive emotions actually. These are the 9, and you add love to it. That's the 10th. And frankly, we can approach a negotiation with joy, with pride about ourselves, with gratitude towards everything, with serenity after having practiced it, with a lot of interest, with hope, you know, rather than the lack of it, and with also the awe possibly in the end could be at the other party's end, where they are in awe of the way the discussion went and we are in awe of what we have managed to achieve. So all these amusement, inspiration, amusement comes into play when we don't bag the deal. So bag a great deal. So we need to take some things with a pinch of salt in our stride, but always keep rolling, and finally, collaboratively. Now, interestingly, the whole stereotype, and this is the last one that I will leave you with. The whole stereotype of community traits can actually be used to our advantage. How? Let's see. Firstly, because we are expected to be nurturing, and frankly, that could be a very big value that each of us carry, and everybody actually should be carrying that value, because it's important to think of any discussion as a two-party discussion rather than just me in it, right? It's never like that. My experience has never been so. It's always about everyone, right? But let that not be a burden. Instead, frame your asks in a collaborative manner, and we work upon doing that. We work upon doing that through situations, role plays, and so on. We really try to script out what is the best way to present this. So think of a negotiation that you're trying to get into, and try to frame it in a way that you're also trying to put in there not just your desire and need, but the other party, what's in it for them as well. Now, the second is when you use too many I statements in a negotiation, it again puts the other party into a defense mode. You know, they also bring their eyes forward. So keep the discussion to a V and try to look at a problem solving approach, collaborative problem solving. Maybe we could look at doing this way, maybe we could look at the salary in such and such manner, and look at the benefits in so and so manner because xyz. So it's about we, not I. And be strategic with both men and women. This is the final one, because we are we typically don't want to be seen. We want to follow the stereotype and try to be the nurturing, caring, goody goody one, thinking of everyone. We do that very well, and that actually makes us keep shut in times which are crucial for us to speak. But when it comes to women, uh, you know women can really not mind their p's and q's also when they are actually getting into a conflict situation. So I'm just thinking that it's interesting, and there has been research done here that women are neither strategic with men nor with women. So in both the cases, one we push too hard and one we don't speak up, right? Or even there, if sometimes we are pushed into a corner and we want to speak up, it comes out in a manner which is not effective. So we need to practice being strategic with men and women. It takes time, and we got to do it. All of us are on that journey. And finally, just summing up, these are the qualities to leverage. Never let respect out of the room. And patience. A lot of negotiations go for a long time. So, if you listen more and talk less, the best part about that is you'll get a lot of information and you won't make any negotiation mistakes. We talk about those mistakes also in the upcoming program. And finally, collaboration for a win win outcome and positive emotions. Now, I will just leave all of you with what is your next move? What is that one situation or one or two situations in your personal or professional life that you want to negotiate, which are big stakes for you? And what are your beliefs about it? What is stopping you? How will you act yourself out in the negotiation? How can you practice better? So I would just, I just hope all of you have got something out of the session which can help you to move forward. And with that, I will just stop the share.
I've taken care of that.
Yes.
All right. Wow. It definitely has been a real value add for me. And I'm certain that because I see that a lot of our members, they have stayed on and continued listening to you. And we have some questions that have come on the chat that we want to address. And I had been making notes for myself. And if anything, I know that I will need some templates or scripts that you could give me for the next negotiation conversation I get into, because I think that sometimes we lack the right words as well, besides just practicing. And so many tips you already shared. For example, buying time was so valuable for me, that we don't have to decide. But I think in a moment where we feel that this is so crucial and important for me, we feel like buying time may be the worst thing for me to do. But really, how I position myself there, buying time really may put me in a better position. And I did take a lot of when I'm really excited about the next masterclass you will do with us. Let's take some questions. Shilpi had a question earlier where she had asked us that I'm gonna just I flashed this question. Shilpi Khanna said, I'm into customized clothing business, and at times it gets difficult to negotiate and make the other person understand the worth of the work we have done. So how do we negotiate with client in a business situation? What do you say to that, Ati? Any tips for her?
Yeah, so Shilpi, I would say that this has got a lot to do with the, like I was saying, your USP has to be very clear to your clients. And that has a lot to do with how you have branded yourself, what is your positioning. The entire STP of Porter comes here, segmenting, targeting, positioning. Are you looking at the right client? Are you pitching in the right manner to the right people? So I will give an example of my own. I am into coaching, and I have done coaching for free, and I have done coaching for a lot of money, which seemed bizarre to me, to both, because something mattered and the other person didn't have the pay parity, or the rather the pay, what do you say, liquidity at that time. Or maybe I didn't even want to charge for it because I needed those hours. So it's both ways. And the other is where I'm tied up with a client or a partner who actually bills their clients very high. So I'm going ahead with that. I'm glad to go ahead with it. So you have to figure out who are you pitching to, and how. And over time is when they realize the value. And you need to know your. So we talk about something called a walkaway price. You have to have three things very clear in your mind. What is your ideal, which will make you completely ecstatic? What is your okay, satisfactory or satisfying amount or package? And what is that below which you will never go with certain clients? And you need to know these three for all the different target groups pools that you are looking. So we work a bit more on this. There is a lot to be done in terms of specifics. All
Yes,
the
and I think if we're just starting out, then again, this is a skill that will develop over time and it requires more practice. And then I think the downside of negotiation for promotion or a salary raise, Aditi, is the fact that it doesn't happen frequently. It may be once a year, maybe promotion could be once in 2 years, and hence we don't get to. But I also could realize from what you were sharing that negotiation actually pretty much happens in a lot of areas. It's not just narrowed to promotion or a job or the next project. We have a question. I don't know if what you've just shared for Shilpi answers the question that Gunjan has as well. I'm going to flash it on the screen. She had asked how to prove your value in the corporate.
See, you see, this is a very, very broad question, but I want to ask you one question, Gunjan. How do you prove your value to yourself?
Wow.
it actually mirrors the other party will mirror that. And this is not something that will change in an instant. It will take maybe a lot of work, consistent work over a period of time. It could be weeks, months, or years. So you need to, when you ask yourself this question, let yourself be the validator of your value in the corporate or wherever you stand. So that is very important. Verify from everyone, but validate yourself. Uh, it's because we all seek the value or the number coming from another party. Why
Yeah.
will they back us if we don't back ourselves? If I don't value myself, I will do all sorts of things to further devalue my status in the eyes of the other party. Very important to understand that.
Yeah.
So
I think that was really a power punch, Aditi. And another one that had come from Revati, who asked, "This is especially difficult for women who were on a break, took lower roles due maternity." I think we were talking about gender wage gap as well. How to break that anchor bias from the other side?
Revati, this question comes from my heart too. It actually came from my heart, and which is why the entire topic of women leadership development is the niche I picked up in my field um, after I became a mother. So, and I am one who had taken a conscious break from a well paying job. So, been there and possibly on my path as well. Now, how do you do that? Now, there are two kinds of breaks. One is a break from a full time job, and the other is a break from working completely. So I didn't do the latter, I did the first. And I'll tell you the difference between the two. If during your break, in fact, before going on a break, you need to have a bit of an idea of how long you expect to be on the sabbatical. Okay, what are the things that you can do to stay connected to your network during that time? What is the upskilling you can do? What are the projects you can pick up which are within your reach during that time? What are the other things you can do? For example, if say you are in the field that I am in, which is learning and development, content writing is a part, speakership is a part. You may not do your own role, but if that interests you, you could possibly be writing, you could be doing something else. Maybe even body and mind work is a part. So you could do get into a wellness field as well. And so in fact, I did that. I started writing. I got into yoga and all of this after I became a mom when I took that break. And now I see there is a huge link between both of those and what I currently do. So now I would write professionally as well. I would use yoga for mindfulness. I would use that in different manners in terms of mindful leadership maybe. So try to look at that break not being a break from work completely, because if you have done that, you lose leverage. There is no doubt. And that has also got to do with very much the first slide. What are your expectations of yourself when you take that sabbatical? Now, we are in those tough situations sometimes when we have to do that. Sometimes it's a conscious choice. But eventually, when I took that break, my expectation was very clear. I will get back to what I really want to. And over time, slowly you see that happen. So if you take a break, make sure you do other things which align with your roots and keep you connected.
Thanks for answering that for Revati. And we have another interesting one that is coming from Shraddha, who says, "I've been hired for a position that was on a trial for 2 months. The amount is lesser than what is required, but will be renegotiated. It's been 3 weeks, but I'm taking on more responsibility that was decided, and I know for sure they want me on the team. How do I initiate the conversation to ask for a permanent position?" I think many people have found or find themselves in this place.
This is a really nice one.
Yeah.
So you've been hired, and there's a lot of information there. So I'm just going over this. The amount is lesser than what but you will be renegotiated, which means the expectation is already there at the other party's end that there will be a discussion. So possibly they are sitting for you to initiate it, because for them, what is there for them? They already have you, they know
Yeah.
you, and they know you wouldn't want to lose the job so soon. So you are in the position of initiation. The ball is in your court. to initiate. That's one thing I can figure out. The second is it's been 3 weeks, but I'm taking on more responsibility than was decided. Now, has that been your decision, or because you want to negotiate hard, then you better plan that discussion. Because if you continue doing this, then you remember that horse. So we don't want that to happen, right? Or any sort of disgruntled feeling in you. So you have to speak. And I know for sure that they want me in the team. Now you come to the point. Now you need to spell out why they want you in the team. You need to do that for them to give you a raise. And that is all about knowing your worth, knowing the market value, pay parity, company, industry, all of that I was speaking about. So do your research, get your number, get your range of ideal and satisfying, and talk about it. And yeah, there would be a little bit of work. Maybe you should come to our program that we're going to be announcing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think one thing that you can wait for the masterclass to happen, or you could maybe schedule a meeting with your boss and initiate, be the one to initiate the conversation. Let's take one last that's come in from Anamika Agarwal in the comments from all the live that people have been watching. How to have this conversation during current situation that we're in. So here's a pandemic related question, very trendy. Your manager agrees that you deserve a promotion by citing pandemic as a hindrance. Okay.
So again, want to tell you, Anamika, that the timing is not right for any discussion on money currently, and all the people, all the employees, corporates across the world are working at slashed budgets. Because they are planning for the next 1.5, 2 years of recovery from the pandemic. Um, so that's one. The second thing is that I've been in a situation like this, and instead of the pandemic in my life, it was motherhood. I was actually the best rated performer in my team before I went on to into my maternity. And when I got back, I was like, my company was in a not a great situation, and I was not in a leveraging situation either, because I had my own bunch of other things that I wanted at that point, rather than a raise or a promotion, which I was due for. So I didn't get the raise, I didn't get the promotion. But what I got was 1 year extra of experience with complete flexibility of work, which was such a piece and such a golden, thing for me at that point. And I was able to continue working in that high pressure company on my terms. So I negotiated something else if I could not negotiate the salary. So yeah, we need to take it with a pinch of salt. And this pandemic has completely made everything topsy turvy.
Hmm.
But again, the tips remain the same. This is not a
Thanks
good
so
time to
much.
negotiate. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then I have one more that has really come from me on behalf of the community. I think, Aditi, because because we work with a lot of women, and then although we have talked about maybe a job situation where it's about the next promotion or it's about the salary raise, but some women in our community have often spoken about how to negotiate for money with husband. What do I tell him? As to why I should get more. It's not a salary. They don't equate it as a salary for the work they do as amazing women who's running the house. So what guidance would you give our women on negotiating for money with husband?
This is an interesting one, and it's frankly a very personal one for each couple to talk about, but definitely must be talked about, because this
Hmm.
actually links to a person's complete freedom of living in a way, right? If you have to ask, if you're not comfortable asking, if you were earning and have stopped earning, it is even tougher to ask.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
have,
That's most of us. Yeah.
because it's too petty for, and that's most of us actually. It's too petty for you to ask. Some women don't even know what is the household inflow, you know, because and especially the independent ones, we are the last ones to know those things, because we think we can handle ourselves. And sometimes if we get into the situation where we are in a position where we need to ask how to, so it's very important to co-partner, completely partner with your husband in terms of, it's great. Whoever's getting the money in. It was the patriarchal system where the person who used to get the bread in was the head of the family, right? But currently, in today's stressful life and times where parenting is a major challenge across the board for everyone, gadgets have come in, time is a challenge. And if somebody is giving that to the family member, there is a huge, bigger number than the salary that can be actually put to it. And especially if you're in a country like US or some other country, frankly, you can legally put it. So there are a lot of people, a lot of ways to do it. I mean, it's very important to have an understanding, I would say, and communication around these topics. And it has to be done in a non-threatening manner. Otherwise, what happens is we think that the other party should give it without our asking. This is the same as other party should give me a raise or a promotion without my asking because of the work I do, because I do a lot of
Mm,
work as well too. And
I
just
love
don't
that.
forget. So yes, so we need to spell out the same process applies. Know your worth, put it down. And I was reading an article the other day in HBR on this. What does a stay-at-home mom make? And in that article, they've really specified a number to it. I think it was HBR if I'm not wrong, or Forbes, one of the two. But it's interesting. Chalk out
Wow.
your day,
Yeah.
put a value to it, and go
And
have
then
the
you
discussion.
see,
And also know that the other guy's pressure, like I was saying, the what's in it for them, what is their stance to it. They must be thinking that this person never talks about what she does, so I don't know what she does at home apart from online shopping. But but you
mm,
need to spell that out. And
wow.
there's sometimes people agree to a common place where they can withdraw at ease, and when there are bigger discussions they decide to have a discussion. So it's up to you how you see. Come out with a solution, get your facts right, and go into that discussion. And all the best.
Yes. Thanks so much for answering those. And at
Sheetal, I lost you. I'm not able to hear you. We'll
okay.
just wait for
Okay.
Sheetal to be back. Yeah, I
Yes,
can hear you.
yes. Okay. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sheetal.
My heart skipped a beat. I thought that I got disconnected. So I'm back online now. You guys can hear me, see me?
Yes, 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 absolutely.
Okay, Aditi, this has been so amazing. I think we definitely took a lot of value within the 1 hour, and thank you for being generous and ensuring that you give whatever you have come to give to the women listening to you, to us, and also being able to answer all the questions that they have shared. And one big takeaway for me, and for I'm sure for everybody, is that because negotiation is not something that we do every day, it is all about practice if we want more of a win-win situation in various areas of our life. Um, and it is not a skill that is practiced, but and anything we practice on a regular basis, we become more competent at it, and that is what gives us the confidence to go in and have the discussion with ease. I think at the end of the day we're looking at, can this conversation be easy? And I loved what you said about doing it harmoniously. And it negotiation often puts me in a position where I feel like, oh, this is stressful, but that word that you've given me is that it is a harmonious discussion as well, that it can be possible. And
Yeah, but
when I yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
but harmony is your value and it is my value
Yeah.
as well. So instead
Hmm,
of letting that be the reason I back out, let that be the reason and the intent with which you go in, you know?
that's
So that
right.
is the difference between the two.
That's right. And I think a lot of us, we want to be armed with the right tools. For example, I was sharing about how I would love to learn if there are some scripts which will help me negotiate effectively and make me, take those baby steps. And having the right tools also gives us confidence in facing a negotiation situation. And for that, we are so glad, community, that we are bringing a 90-minute masterclass with Aditi, and this is going to happen on the 22nd of August. And what you can expect to learn, the outcomes are the practices to overcome whatever barriers you may have to negotiation. Understanding the negative impact of not negotiating. You touched upon some of them, and I'm sure there's more that we can get when we go into deeper conversations and have that interaction. How using positive emotions and collaboration technique to achieve the win-win situation that we're talking about. So all of these outcomes we have packed into a 90-minute masterclass with Aditi on the 22nd of August. It is going to happen from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. And the investment in your skilling up and powering up in negotiating for that raise, for that promotion, is rupees 1100 for the 90-minute masterclass and and the interaction and asking question and taking the tools from Aditi. And if you'd like to block a seat for yourself, then you can Google Pay or Paytm to this number, and this is with that commitment, but that I want to have more of the win-win situations in my life. And hey, and like I shared, that if you win at it, your net worth is definitely going to increase when you're able to bring home a little more money. So
Maybe you can buy a penguin at the end of it.
yes,
I said, maybe
yes,
you can buy a penguin.
yes, you can buy a penguin, definitely. So thank you all. This has been great. And I think it's a conversation we would love to just keep continuing with. Again, my name is Sheetal Gurung from Women on Wealth, where we help women take charge of their finances. And we will come back again on the 22nd of August. Don't forget to sign up for this masterclass with Aditi so that you can win in life in more of the situations. So thank you so much, Aditi, for coming here again. Really
Pleasure.
grateful for your time.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks to everyone who was
Bye,
listening.
everybody. Have a happy weekend. Yes.
Bye and happy negotiating.
Yes. See you.